Hi, welcome back to the Bear Make It YouTube channel. Today we're going to make a serving tray. And here we go. So instead of using just wood on the bottom of the serving tray, my wife had the idea to use like kitchen tile. So we went to Home Depot and picked up this stuff, and I just used epoxy to affix it to this backer board. And I didn't really worry too much about it being stuck permanently, as I gotta grout it and all that yet, so I just used super glue to cover the squares. I didn't have enough epoxy. I probably could have spread it out better, but it worked, so it's good enough. And then it's just a matter of putting grout down. I bought this like grout that you just have to fill it up to the line and then mix it, which turned out to be entirely too much grout, but it did the job. It was a lot of wasted grout, but I didn't have anything else to do with it. And I didn't quite know how much I needed because I don't do tile work, so I figured it would be enough and then just kind of went with it. And then after it sat for about 20 minutes, I just wiped it off like a sponge. Really, if you're going to do it, just follow the instructions on the grout, because I'm no expert. And now we just need to get the frame glued up. So these are going to be the taller sides that'll have the handles cut into them on the frame, where I used entirely too much glue. So just getting those glued up, clean up some of the glue. And then these, if I just let them sit long enough, they took themselves out of the clamps, so that's nice. And now I'm just starting to cut the recess for the tiles. This is kind of like making a box, you know, just without a lid. Just cut the recess, and then I used this spacer just to get 1/8 of an inch away from where I'd cut the line, just to cut another 1/8 of an inch, which still wasn't wide enough. So after I cut this pass, I moved it, just kind of eyeballed it, moved it a little bit, did a test cut, and it fit pretty much perfectly for those tiles, so got lucky there. And this is just kind of a test fit to get the final width of those handle pieces lined up. And I wanted to do that because I'm going to try to cut new joinery on it that I have not tried before. So I needed to wait to measure it until I knew exactly how wide it was going to be with those other pieces on it. And here I'm essentially just cutting a tenon on the end of those rails. That'll be the long pieces on the side. And then there will be a mortise on the handle pieces. Just see me laying out here that those tenons will fit into. They're kind of like half-blind dovetail joints, except they're not dovetails because I didn't feel like trying to do that. I knew even doing this kind of joint was going to be a bit of a stretch because I hadn't really done something like this before, and I didn't really want to just dive into dovetails because that could be stressful, and I didn't want this project to take that long. And I don't really have great chisels. Like, I have an okay set that aren't very sharp, so they were okay to do the cleanup work on those 4 joints, but to do full-on set of dovetails, no thank you please. I mean, yeah, just test fitting it all together. It's not perfect. I got not quite deep enough on some of them, but I figured it was close enough, and move on to cutting out the handles on the other pieces. Because the places where it wasn't quite deep enough, I could go back and I could get that sanded flush, which I think came back to bite me a little bit, and that I ended up with more gaps in the joints than I would have liked. But it all worked in the long run. I don't think it's going to fall apart. So, but here I'm just drilling out, and then I thought I'd use this to sand everything flush, but I don't know, it just wasn't going that well, and my camera was sliding all around. I ended up doing the bulk of the cleanup work with this very old, like 4-way rasp, I think it is, and it did pretty good. This, and then wrapping some sandpaper around it, helped to get kind of the rough gouges out. Because really I just needed to do this work on one of them, and once I had that one done, I could use it as a template to route the other one, which you'll see me do here in a minute. Yeah, so that's the finished one there. And then this, if you don't have double-sided tape, just use masking tape on each piece, super glue, activator, and boom, like double-sided tape. Because then those will come apart because the super glue is stuck to the tape and not the wood. So when you take them apart, you won't even know that there was anything there keeping them together. And this is just, like I said, using a router with flush trim bit to clean it up. Do one pass to get it started. And then I could separate them and then use flush trim bit to finish them off. And this is where you can see I didn't quite have the joint right, so I just trimmed a little tiny bit off of the tenons, and that made it fit pretty snug. Until, which I didn't think of at this point, I thought, hey, these are fitting pretty nice. Good job me. But then when I sanded these pieces later, when I sanded the inside faces, of course I sanded away some of that thickness, so then it was not quite snug as it used to be anymore. But here I'm just rounding over all of the edges. You don't want a handle there if it's gonna slice your hand open every time you grab it. And then sanding. Hand sanding because of what I mentioned before. I did some power sanding that I didn't film because it's sanding. Nobody cares about that. But I switched to hand sanding when I noticed how much the random orbital sander was taking off. And then here you just melt down some of the chocolate gelato and use that on there. It's a really protective finish, so it'll hold up well. It's actually mineral oil and wax. Melt the wax and then mix them together and then wipe it on. I found it works well. I don't know, I'm pretty sure I've seen other people use it, but I mixed that up a while ago and now I'm just trying to use it up on this, and I figure the wax will help protect it if anything ever gets spilled or anything like that on it, hopefully. I don't think we're going to use it a lot for liquids, but if we do, hopefully that'll help. And then just clamp. And I had purple sawdust all over the place, so luckily it was pretty easy to mix up some paste and fill in all those gaps that I had from my super precise joinery. And this really darkened when the glue dried. Like it turned almost a black color instead of staying purple like the rest of the wood. So that was different. It's still, I think, is better than leaving those gaps there and exposed. But it was just a lot darker than I expected it to be. And then it was just a matter of rubbing that gelato on the rest of the tray. And that was about it. I could come in and plop it down where it's probably going to sit on my plywood coffee table. That was about it. This didn't take me as long as I thought it would. I think I got this done in just a few days, working after work, and then one weekend day, just getting the finishing done. It was a fun project, came together pretty good. I'm really happy with the tile choice that we made. I think that, and then choosing the Purpleheart for the frame, really makes it kind of stand out. A nice colorful border around the black and white tile. It's a good combination. Most of the credit for that and the idea for this project goes to my wife. So, good job, wife. Go follow me on Instagram if you want to see what I'm up to between videos. Be sure to subscribe here for future videos. Thank you guys so much for watching. Have a great day.